Welcome to the Random Access File Challenge. In this challenge, you'll be using an index file that contains a series of employee records. This index file is in the Resources section of this video, so be sure to grab it and put it in the root directory of your project. This file starts with a total count of employee records that are in the file in integer value. This is followed by a series of key value pairs. The key is an integer value representing the employee ID. The value is a long value, that's the file position of the employee record in the file. For this challenge, open a random access file class with appropriate permissions, load the employee index into memory, list your employee IDs in order, retrieve an employee record from the file using an employee ID to locate the position of that record in the file. Print the employee record information to the console. Next, update the selected employee's salary in the file. And finally, retrieve the record from the file again and print the information to the console, confirming that the salary was persisted. Each employee record in the file consists of the following information and in this order: employee ID, an int; salary, a double; first name, a string with a variable width; last name, also a variable width string. Okay, so go away and give that a try. In some ways, this is a lot like the code I just walked through. The difference is that now you'll be updating a field in the record that's in the file. This is just a matter of finding where the salary is in that file, seeking it in other words, and then writing the value of a new salary as a double. When you're ready, come back and we'll walk through my solution to this challenge together. Welcome back. Okay, so how'd you do? Were you able to read the data in and change the salary of an employee, or maybe several? For this code, I've created a new project called Random Access Challenge with a main class. The first thing I want to do is create a record in this Java file for an employee. The fields will be employee ID, first name, last name, and salary. The types match the types I specified on the challenge slide, so employee ID is an int, first name and last name are strings, and salary is a double. I'll create a private static variable for my map index. I know I want my key to be an integer for the employee ID, and I want the value to be the long, the file position. I'll just use a hash map. I'll again use a static initializer on my main class to initially load up the index when my class is first loaded. I'll initialize a variable, records in file, to store the number of records. I'll start with a try with resources block. I'll open a random access file for reading using the employees.dat file as the first argument. The second argument is the mode. Here I just want to read data, so I'll pass the literal R to that. I'll catch any IO exception that might occur during file operations. I'll print the stack trace if an exception occurs. Inside the try block, I'll start by reading the first 4 bytes, which is the integer that has the record count in it. I'll print how many records are in the file. I use a traditional for loop using the record count to tell me how many times I need to read the index values. I'll read the employee ID as an int and the file pointer position as a long and put this key value pair into my map. And that's it. I can actually run this with nothing in the main method and I should see my record count. The output says there's 25 records in this file, which is true, so this part looks good. I'll next set up a private static method named readRecord. It returns an employee and has a random access file instance as the first parameter and an employee ID as the second. I use this method to get a record in the file, instantiating an employee record using the appropriate read methods to populate the fields. This time, I'm going to declare a throws clause and let the calling code deal with this exception. I'll use my employee ID map index to get the file position for the employee ID that's passed. I'll use seek to jump to the position in the file for this specific employee. I'll read the employee ID, so 4 bytes. I'll read the employee's salary, a double. I'll read the employee's first name, which is a variable width string, and I do that with readUTF. I'll read the employee's last name, another variable width string. Next, I'll create an employee object with the gathered data, passing my local variables in the right order to the employee constructor. I'll print the employee details to the console. Finally, I'll return the employee object from this method. Now, I can get back to the main method. I'll again start with a try with resources block here. I'll open the random access file for read and write operations this time because I plan to write to it, updating the salary field. I'll use a scanner to solicit the employee ID from the console. I'll create a list of employee IDs from the indexed IDs map. I'll sort the list of IDs. I'll use this list to help prompt the user for a valid employee ID. As usual, I need to catch any IO exception. I'll throw a runtime exception with the error details. Next, I'll start a while loop, and I'll just loop until something breaks out of this while loop. I'll display the sorted list of employee IDs. I'll prompt for an employee ID. If there's no input, I'll exit the loop. I'll read the input, employee ID, passing it to an int. If the ID is less than 1, I'll exit the loop. For good measure, I'll make sure the ID the user enters is really in the file by seeing if my sorted list contains it. If it's not, I'll continue going back to the start of the while loop. Now that I have an employee ID from the user, I'll read and display the employee record using my private method I created earlier. I'll prompt the user for a salary. I'm going to put this code in a try-catch because if the user enters bad data for the salary, I'll just catch the exception and ignore it. I don't want the program to crash here. I'll read and pass the new salary as a double. I next need to position the file pointer to the salary field, which you'll remember is after the ID. I need to add 4 to the position that I got from the employee ID map. I'll write the new salary to the file. I'll read and display the updated employee record. I'll catch and ignore any number format exception. Okay, we've got the code to interact with the user, so let's run this. I see again that there's 25 records in the file. Now, I've got a list of employee IDs, sorted, and the program is prompting me to enter a student ID, or 0 to quit. I'll just pick one, let's say 622. The program created an employee record, and here you can see it's printed out. The employee's name is Ralph Black, and right now he doesn't have any salary. I'll fix that and give him a salary of 55,555, so 55,555 there. Again, the employee record is retrieved and printed, and you can see this update worked. I'll just press 0 to quit. This employee's new salary is now in what's called persistent storage in this .dat file. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that challenge and it helped reinforce some of the skills you've been learning. In the next video, I'll be talking about serialization, which is another mechanism of writing your Java objects to disk as binary data, so I'll see you in that next video.